Okay, it is 1:30 and I am calling to order this meeting of the Road Safety Community Partnership Committee on Monday, November the 4th. First on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Everybody had a chance to look at it. If so, somebody want to make a motion to approve the agenda? Member McNalty, any seconds? Okay, we got Member Harrison, I guess. Okay. All those in favor? Okay, any opposed? Okay, carried. Next is the declaration of pecuniary interest. Is there any such declaration? Okay, seeing none. Oh.
Aye.
Okay, we move on then to number 4 on the agenda, the adoption of the minutes. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to read the minutes. Would anybody like to move that the minutes be accepted? A member? Oh, yeah.
I wasn't there, so technically I shouldn't.
Okay, anyone else like to move? Member Loughead. Seconder. Member Wickens. All those in favor? Okay, all those opposed? Okay, it's carried. Number 5 on the agenda, items for consideration 5.1 is the municipal update. Would you like to take this, Member Wickens?
I can take what I know, and then if Joel wants to. So yes, council has approved a new bridge on the 10th concession, just outside of Beaversham. It's in very bad shape. It was a bridge that was actually the outsides was widened and had new outsides put on. And they're fine, but the original bridge is in bad shape. So there's that. And also I believe that the OPP have agreed to send a member on this board here. So I don't know when that will happen. Imagine sooner than later. Stuart?
Yeah, so I was wondering, on that, I know you're gonna use culverts, et cetera, so it's.
Yes, that's right.
Hopefully that's a speedier process than,
It should be.
and that the bridge should be down. Are we going to close that and have detours?
It'll have to close.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that, because it's tributary of the Beaver River, does it have fisheries involved on that?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, the work can only be done between a certain,
Right, okay,
like June, September, something like that,
right.
I believe, yeah. So,
There's another bridge on that road, well, that's,
farther on down, we haven't dealt with it yet, I don't believe, but
yeah,
it's on the radar. Yes.
So the trucks driving south will take also the detour through Feversham over the other bridge.
There'll have to be a detour from,
Okay.
yeah, from, especially the trucks that are coming out of the Sealy's pit. That's their truck route. They're supposed to go to the west, and so there'll have to be another route temporarily put in for them.
Okay, so the trucks will not drive through Feversham.
No, they shouldn't. No.
Okay,
No.
because
Chris?
Through the chair, so just for clarification, it would not be staff's recommendation that you would put a hauler through a residential area, so no. That would be recommendation of the consultants whenever the detour is set, that they would probably have to go get to Beaver, so they'll probably have to go north and back up to 2 that way. Or allow for a temporary east haul to 63 or the down county line. But those details are all worked out at the time of the.
That's all I have. Do you have anything, Joel, to add?
I don't know if we discussed it in this committee, the addition, or the sort of repairs to the stop sign over, my respect where it was. Walton Ball.
22 down.
22 in the town line, that's right.
Oh, yes.
We discussed that here, but that was, and that recommendation didn't come to this, or the request didn't come to this committee. I think it went directly to council. Anybody else recalls? Anyway, a couple of folks living there, town line, that's the Beaver town line, is that right? Or Chatsworth, right, Chatsworth town line. And there was a stop sign at a T intersection at the town line, which had been gone through, I don't know, they said 3 or 4 times or something like that. So they made a request to council that we take a look at it, and Chris and his team did. And the stop sign was enlarged, is that right? Or the checkerboard was enlarged and brought closer to the middle of the intersection of the road. So that hopefully it's more visible. But I mean, I'm bringing that up because it, I don't know, it's pertinent, and I think it goes to show that, you know, we're able to do these types of things when the public come forward to us with these types of concerns. We're able to act quickly on it, and hopefully the next section is a lot safer for it. Okay, thank you. On the addition of the OPP member of this committee, I noticed that was directed to staff to amend the terms of reference. I don't suppose that's been done quite yet.
Yeah, it hasn't been sent back to council at this time.
Okay, so that'll get sent back to council, and then they'll make the necessary.
Yeah, a bylaw needs to be passed.
Thank you. So, does anyone want to accept the information that member Wickens has given us? Member McNalty, seconder, member Harrison, all those in favor? Okay, carried. Next on the agenda is 5.2, the McNalty correspondence. Since this was addressed to committees in general, I guess I'll explain what I've read here. This comes from Jamie McNalty in relation to the intersection of Fairway Heights and Margaret Elizabeth in Markdale. The claim is that the roadway is being used as a speedway for residents of the subdivisions to get home. There is a stop sign there on, I guess it's Fairway Heights as it turns on to Margaret Elizabeth, but people are going through the stop sign on their way home. There's also a stop sign, there's no stop sign, I should say, on that same roadway coming the opposite direction. They say that they've contacted the OPP multiple times and they're going to look into it, but so far nothing has happened. Does anybody want to add anything to the discussion about this particular issue? Do we know what we're talking about? I've looked at the intersection myself. It is odd to me that there's a stop sign going one way, but not in the opposite direction, which may be a reason why people are thinking that they can just really go back and forth. I think it is probably an issue for OPP, being that we don't have a representative on our committee quite yet. I don't know if we should defer this to the next meeting, and then they could probably give us some clue as to what could be done.
Is it feasible to have another stop sign there?
Well, I don't, yeah, it's possible, but I don't know that that would solve the issue. What does everybody else think? Member Halliday?
Well, I think there's another stop sign should be investigated, and maybe we can make a motion to ask Chris, to investigate that and through council. Does it make any sense? The other thing is the speed within that particular subdivision. I don't think it's zoned 40 yet. I think it's 50.
It's 50 all throughout Markdale.
I realize that. So that brings up the situation of, I think, that Eugenia was a test for the 40-kilometer zone. And to me, it is effective, and I think perhaps we should consider 40 kilometers in the residential areas of Market. Because I know we haven't had any accidents there, but I know in many towns that I visit, particularly one that I used to live in, which was Guelph, and another one that I used to live in many years ago, they brought it down to 30. So I'm suggesting that perhaps we look at as part of the solution of this is to have 40-kilometer zone in that particular subdivision.
Member Loughead.
Thank you, Chairman. So, I mean, council's made a decision that we go forward with complete streets and Vision Zero policies, and when we made that move, there wasn't a lot of precision on exactly what that means, right? I mean, it was to adopt the Vision Zero policies, but then we didn't get it, so there's a lot of policy within that, and also they're not very rigid, so it wasn't very clearly laid out to us exactly what that means, but I'm thinking that might be the case, and I'm actually hoping that that's the case, that, Vision Zero's, broad plan is for things along those lines, specifically lowering speed limits down to 40 and 30 kilometers an hour. So I guess this begs the question to Director Cornfield, is that sort of, when we talked about the complete streets and Vision Zero policy, was that understood a reduction of 40 kilometers an hour in our residential areas, or would we need precise direction to staff for something along those lines from council?
You Chair Barnett to Councillor Loughead. So there's a bit of a gap here because we had the consultant's report on the road safety report.
Right.
So I think the direction that came out of that we were to bring forward for the consultation for hiring consultants to look at speed within our municipalities as part of the 2025 budget. So I think we're getting a little bit ahead here until 2025, rather than me kind of take on an individual street, and we look at the council supports those recommendations in the 2025 budget. We're having the consultants that are street lighting, there was speed, there was something else, there was 4 or 5 items that were referred to the 2025 budget. From that, then we would have a policy, if you will, that could be presented to council, which may include your urban centers and how you define that, whether it's a hamlet or your market inflections, how they would go about that. So that's, for me, to the committee here. I think maybe that particularly we should wait till see moves forward. If not, then obviously the committee could probably be best. You could ask me to ask, or you would ask council to ask me to move forward from a staff perspective. And I think also, like, the request is about stopping. It's not necessarily the speed. Anybody who's really familiar with that area, I'd argue it's pretty hard to get over 40 kilometers an hour through there.
Well, he does mention his thing speedway. Okay.
In fairness, perception and actual are two different areas.
I understand that.
The other thing I wanted to mention, just Councillor Loughead and Councillor missed it. There was actually a council supporter having an intersection stop sign at, sorry, it was on, at Grady, the corner of Grady and Margaret Elizabeth as well too, because there was no stop sign there. I had to go while I stopped there as well too. Keeping in mind that your artillery roads and then you have collectors coming, so typically your collectors would be where you would stop your intersection, your artilleries would move forward, which would be your, which is now Mullins and Margaret Elizabeth. Should the development to the north ever come through, that's a connection as well, right through there, parallel with Highway 10. So Typically, when you lay something out, all your collectors would have stops. The artillery would carry through.
Okay, thank you.
Would Margaret, that'll be an arterial road through the church, or?
Margaret Elizabeth would be considered that. It really isn't at this point.
No, but it could be because of the.
Potential development to the north.
Okay, member Harrison.
Through the chair. Chris, how do we actually post speed limit signs in villages and or towns? Is it a blanket? You don't put one on every street as an example, right?
That's through you, Chair, to members. Our rural and urban, so if it's urban centers are assumed 50 unless otherwise posted, and that's the same rule. They are rural communities, or roads are 80 unless otherwise posted.
So if we wanted to change that, would we do something different or just declare it as a fact?
Typically,
Post it inside the village or outside the town?
so typically, all of our streets are county roads and obviously Highway 10 going coming into Markdale, Fletcher to have that posting reduction as you enter. So it would be assumed that it would be on every street within a village.
Can I ask a question before we get to?
Yeah.
That roadway, Fairway Heights, as it meets Margaret Elizabeth, they all have sidewalks on either side.
Yeah.
One second.
Which side?
Southwest.
Southwest. So is the danger then to pedestrians when they're crossing Margaret Elizabeth and nobody's stopping at the stop sign, they could just theoretically drive right into them as they're crossing the road from Margaret Elizabeth going west? So, yeah, I guess it's hard just to point it out without a map in front of me, but Fairway Heights goes west.
East.
Well, okay, east-west. Right. Margaret Elizabeth goes north-south. But it makes a turn, a curve, as it goes on to Fairway Heights. But there's a sidewalk on Fairway Heights. There's no sidewalk on Margaret Elizabeth, so
Yeah, there is.
there is. So when a pedestrian is crossing from the sidewalk on Margaret Elizabeth to head west along Fairway Heights, they are having to cross that road. And if people are not stopping at that stop sign from Fairway Heights onto Margaret Elizabeth, they could theoretically interfere with somebody who's walking across the. Thinking if somebody's walking across the road and there's a stop sign, they're assuming that the cars can stop as they cross. But if it's not, there's a danger there. That's what I'm getting at. Where was I going with this? I don't know. But
That's,
another possible suggestion might be a crosswalk from one side of the road to the other, and that makes it more obvious to motorists as they're coming up Fairway Heights. But I see what you're saying. I take your point in that the budget needs to be addressed to meet whether or not we're going to meet some of these recommendations that were given to staff through that pedestrian study. It's maybe a little early. Stuart, do you agree that it's a little early to be deciding on this particular?
Well, it's never too early, from my point of view. I know that, for example, in the town that I was brought up in, it was a 40 zone, and then a little child came out on the road and was killed. It's now a 30 zone. So I'm sensitive to speed in small towns. Sure, I understand. I mean, I think we need to. I think we need to let this particular person know that that we have looked at this in a resolution, that we have looked at this. And that we have asked council to consider it in their 2025 budget. As part of the role. In other words, I don't think we've completed our obligation to this particular person unless we put a motion on it too.
Okay,
Which I'll.
you want to make that motion now,
Yeah.
or wait a second, we'll go to Member Jones, who has had it. Did you want to say something?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just looking at the map. I actually just wanted to point out that sidewalk is actually continuous. It goes from Margaret to Elizabeth around to Highway 10. It's just on that one side though. So if you're crossing from that sidewalk, you're crossing to a side that doesn't have one, which could be an issue, right? I mean, there is no sidewalk there. The other thing I wanted to mention was that Director Cornfield said that the municipality would have to hire a consultant in order to identify, streets that need speed changes or whatever. Like that's not something that could just be, directed by council to staff or whatever to change things. We need a consultant.
Through the chair, to Member Jones. So the recommendations that came from the consultant study was for a number of items that council supported developing policy. So rather than having one-offs, the idea would be consistent throughout the municipality. And to have the consultants would have a lot more expertise in traffic flows, patterns, pedestrian movements, along with basic alignments of roads. There would be also maybe like recommendations of, I can't see this happening, but they may think that, where there is a reduction in speed already, that maybe it is an arterial road, maybe it should be recommended to be higher.
Right.
I'm pretty safe to say I don't think that's going to happen, but that's what having said by the consultants, the experts to make those recommendations. So what I'm trying to say is this is already kind of brought forward through the consultants' study. Council has, and I should have it up here in front of me. Take a few minutes to try to bring out all those recommendations through the budget. But that would allow council to give the direction to move forward and have a full report from a third-party consultant on all of our.
So this, and it would cover the entire municipality, not just Leisure or whatever.
No, it would cover them all, because it's also, there's as many concerns about rural as there is.
Sure.
Urban.
Oh, yeah.
And this is where, we're getting down on the weeds here way too far, but when you start posting a sign, or a sign, you're telling the motoring public that that road is safe to travel at that speed.
Right.
We have plenty of roads that are soon 80 that could arguably be mentioned that is not designed, it was designed in 1940 or earlier.
Right, and it might be safe to go a little bit faster than that, for example. Yeah.
You probably shouldn't be going that speed, but that's why you do an assumption that you do to get posting. So there's an onus there that you drive as per the conditions of the road.
Right.
So
Sorry, so do we have is that consultant work been done?
No, it's got to 2025.
So, right, so any kind of idea, like that sounds like a really big project, like how long would that take? Any idea?
I would say minimum 6 months. And I'm just.
No, it's okay. I won't hold you to
Member
it.
Jones, so I really.
We'll hold you to it.
The time the budget's approved could be well into February. And then you have to obviously go for a tender or RFP, do your award, they obviously have to do the work. And then they have to bring that back for council's consideration, and they would generally have recommendations, they do a presentation with it. And council would may or change or vary what their recommendations are.
So the recommendations that we bring forward, for example, for Eugenia or for Feversham or Flesherton or whatever, I mean, how much weight do they carry with the consultant? Is that going to be anything that they would consider or even need to consider or?
Sorry.
Okay, so, you know, we've heard, you know, recommendations for various, you know, towns and so on in terms of safety issues, community safety zones and things like that, changing speed limits and so on. Would those be incorporated or would they be considered by consultants when they're doing their work?
So, as Councillor Loughead has mentioned, they, as part of that original report, they have supported the Vision Zero and the complete streets as to be implemented in all of our construction and our consultants requirements. So yes, that's part of.
Yeah, I'm talking about like really like specifics, I guess, when we were, you know, talking about Vision Zero as more of a generality or?
So can I just get Councillor Loughead to understand?
Okay.
Better? I think
Sure.
Be able to.
Thank you, Chair Barnett. As Director Cornfield was saying, the recommendation from council was for municipalities of Great Highlands to go forward with complete streets and Vision Zero as general policy, right? And again, the specifics within both of those complete streets and Vision Zero are not entirely clear because they aren't very rigid policy frameworks. But it is my understanding that generally within the Vision Zero policy framework, reduced speed limits more in line with 40 and 30 kilometers an hour are recommended everywhere, right? I think 30 is actually the benchmark, which is why you've seen the entire city of Toronto, I think, move to 30 in the entirety of the report.
Right.
So, you know, as Director Cornfield was saying, that recommendation is now, you know, going understood by staff, and we, during the 2025 budgeting process, will be hearing back from consultants who will also have that information from council that this is our wish to go forward. So I guess what I'm saying here is my expectation is that the consultants are going to come back, you know, with that recommendation regardless, right? So for us to give recommendations as this body to council that we move to 40 kilometers an hour here or there is probably, as was said earlier, piecemeal and premature.
Right.
Because in all likelihood, yes, our consultants are going to look at the entirety of the Great Highlands and say, given, you know, that you've adopted complete streets Vision Zero, this will be our recommendation. That said, I think we do still have a duty this particular moment to do something. And my recommendation would be for us to recommend to council that we get a staff report on this particular intersection, right? And so if we could hear from Director Cornfield now as to whether or not he thinks that that's warranted. My feeling at the moment is that there may be improvements, as I was saying in the council update earlier, you know, making an improvement to a sign, correcting its location, that kind of thing. It may be that the volume has increased at this intersection and does require a second stop sign at this point. Maybe the stop sign could or should be moved. Something along those lines. Those are the things we find out in the staff report. So I guess through the chair to Director Cornfield, my question is whether or not the recommendation from this body would be warranted.
Through you, Chair, back to Councillor Loughead. So this isn't the first time this individual has reached out. He has reached out to the municipality a year ago, or maybe even more, with concerns about enforcement. I know the CAO reached out directly to the inspector and said, you know, this has been ongoing. A lot of it was in relation to contractors that were failing with construction when the subdivisions going on, failing to adhere. I know that they have done patrols or, you know, and in fairness, they can't sit everywhere all the time, but I've seen them there. I've seen them vehicles pulled over. So yes, in my mind, I think it's a little premature to move forward on it. But the OPP have also been notified and have in the past put extra effort into enforcement. Now that everything is developed on both sides, Fairway 1 and the Stonebrook subdivision, it shouldn't be contractors. So if there's an issue with general public, you know, we could always look at the intersection. It is a complicated intersection if you come up from Stonebrook and then you make a left and then there's a immediate stop. Some people don't see that. There is a connectivity of the sidewalks, as has been mentioned here as well. That would be addressed when Margaret Elizabeth would be reconstructed and or when the development maybe went through, would be part of their mandate too.
Sidewalk on the other side.
And then not necessarily, at least have a sidewalk on one side. Currently our
Alright.
design standards are sidewalk on one side, unless it's in the arterial, right, downtown, highway 10 or county.
Okay, thank you. Member Loughead?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So again, I guess the question still stands. I mean, you know, would a recommendation from this committee to council that this intersection be looked at by Director Cornfield and his staff, or perhaps improvements to signage, additional signage, those types of things? I mean, my question is whether or not we, if I guess Director Cornfield in particular thinks that that's worthwhile.
To the chair, at this point, I would just make that recommendation that we would wait until the consultant's report came back. But that doesn't mean staff can't direct me to look at it in the meantime.
Okay, yes, Member Harrison?
Through the chair, Chris, and I'm listening to Loughead, Mr. talking about it as well. The consulting report seems like an onerous and a costly venture, I'm sure. Surely we're not the first ones to adopt this program. Should we not be just using that as a basis to go with it if everyone's agreeing with it? Why would we need a consultant to do that for us? We used to work as a consultant.
Are you talking about the complete streets and?
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Or is it specific to these streets? Is that why a consultant needs to be involved? Is it?
Seems to me.
Well, it's a chicken and egg thing, isn't it? Reality.
Yeah, just because we did spend money on a consultant, and a consultant made recommendations. So what did they recommend about speed limits? Again, I'm not prepared because I didn't read that report, but I know we have an extensive report that was done. Did they say to council, you know, consider lowering speed limits in that report? That, to me, if it's recommended in that report to reduce speed limits or improve signage, that's enough direction for council not to soft off to another consultant, because you can, getting consulting on consultants, you know.
Or staff reporting.
So I'm not trying to be far as you, but I'm just trying to say this, it is costly to you know, to have that kind of thing if you've already got a consultant.
Director Cornfield, do you want to answer that? Is there anything in this report that specifically addresses speed limits?
So, through Chair Barnett, if you want to take a 5-minute recess, I can't get in here. So if I can give you all the details of the recommendations that went forward. The pedestrian safety study did not drill those down on those specifics. They made specific recommendations like a street lighting policy. So where should you have a street light? Or a speed limit policy.
Okay.
And so I don't want to unfairly tag the consultants on top of consultants, because that wasn't their task. They made those recommendations. Municipalities should pursue this in further detail.
Okay. It wasn't a drill down report.
It was all part of the recommendations that I think everybody heard. And again, it's been what, several months since the study was.
As I recall, there were no specific recommendations with regards to speed limits. Like it was more, there was a lot of reports that staff had to come back with with regards to limits and signage and this and that.
And just to build on that, the reason staff only have so much time, that was there was a lot in that study, and it's a lot to digest. And I think to Councillor Member Jones's comments about timing, there's only so much staff's time, and we, as part of the report that we did originally, that was said, well, we can't do all this, so a decision has to be made. What are your priorities? Or can we outsource some of the recommendations within the study?
Right. And Loughead?
Thank you, Chair, on that. So just a quick look here at the pedestrian safety study, just cabinet control F40 within the document, and it comes up 82 times, which kilometers per hour with many of them. And it does repeatedly say that the general municipality should consider reducing the speed limit on all local roads in the community. All municipality area has to 40 kilometers an hour to match the speed of greater than 30. So I mean, this is done. But that's Eugene in particular, that's this general recommendation of 40 kilometers an hour comes up repeatedly. So I think, and I actually frankly don't recall exactly what the recommendation was from council in regards to that consultant, but in my recollection, the recommendation was to move forward again with Vision Zero, which as a blanket policy is essentially either 40 or 30 kilometers an hour in all local roads. All residents. So I think, you know, we have requested a consultant to come back to us with more detail. I remember in relation to sidewalks, lighting, and another couple, but I think that the consultant is going to have to do a whole lot of work to come back with that 40 kilometer an hour recommendation, because it is pretty clearly dead, in my opinion, not only in this report, but elsewhere across the province, across the country, and across the world now, frankly, everybody's moving to this type. Again, all of this still leaves on the table at the moment. The question is what to do with this particular intersection. I'm happy to make a motion at this point that we recommend to council to request a staff report on this particular intersection.
So currently the motion on the floor is to accept the
We haven't moved on.
oh, yeah.
So, sorry, Chair Barnett, what we could do is compile those two, the received information and the additional motion, whatever it is, into one.
Right. Okay.
So, and that made that receive information and recommend to council for a staff report on this particular intersection.
Okay, does anyone want to second that? Harrison?
I guess I was only suggesting, before my comment related, when Chris suggested it was a 6-month study, that it's acknowledged that if it isn't that, then that's.
Yeah, through the chair, I think this is going to come back to this will be discussed again in the budgeting process, and we're going to come down to those details. But frankly, as a councillor, I agree we don't need a consultant to do much research to figure out if we should accept the policy the council has essentially already recommended and adopted elsewhere.
Right.
We do need a consultant to look at particulars like sidewalks and street lighting, et cetera, and maybe particular instances of speed, as Director Markdale said, in rural areas perhaps, or maybe even residential areas where it should be limited to 30 kilometers or 25, et cetera, something like that. But I think that the blanket 40 doesn't require a lot of work on consultants. All right.
Agreed.
Thank you, through you, Chair Barnett. We don't have a seconder for the motion.
Yes, I realize that. Okay, now we do. Yeah, Director Cromfield.
If it would please the committee, it's a very broad recommendation. I would like to see a little more detail or direction for staff of what you're looking for, not just to, maybe Daniel would read it back, but to look at the intersection of what am I looking for? If to the chair. I just don't want to come back to council and council and then Councillor Loughead and Councillor Wickens are trying to explain what their actual intent. So if we can be clear on the intent of what you want, I think that would help move it along.
Member Halliday, yes.
Yeah, it could be that we address the issues brought forward by Jamie McNalty. And that we address those issues. Speeding and stop signs.
Does that sound like a friendly amendment to your motion?
I believe, I suppose, that it really, if direct corn filtering requires even more, direction than that, then I'd be happy to hear it, but I'm happy with that amendment, or we can provide even further to say, investigate, speed and, or additional or, improved signage.
Okay, well, that's fine, as long as,
Traffic control is,
Traffic control to,
embraces the whole stop sign type of thing.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm getting in. I don't want to do this. I don't want to go back to the committee here, because there was a bit of, needed a little extra work submitting and we take time now, that's all.
let's do it now.
All good. So now it's up to Danielle to kind of figure that out.
And that Jimmy be McNulty be made aware of our decision. Or resolution.
It's awesome working around that. So you're concentrating. Are you ready? You can read that back.
So I'll treat this as an amendment to the main motion that is on the floor already, just for clarity, and this is just what I have drafted, so if the committee or if a mover who would appreciate moving this amendment could identify if it meets their intent. I'll read first the main motion that I have, so we can get an understanding. Moved by member Loughead, seconded by member McCrindle, that the Road Safety Community Partnership Committee receive the McNalty correspondence for information, and that the Road Safety Community Partnership Committee recommend that council direct staff to review the intersection of Fairway Heights and Margaret Elizabeth and report back to council with any recommendations for improvements. The amendment to that main motion would add relating to traffic control and speeds as identified in the McNalty correspondence.
Does that work, member Loughead?
Would it add any weight or add any more clarity if we indicate that the OPP are going to be part of this committee and that to gain some? No.
I don't think so.
There are contract service.
Okay, so that motion's been put on the floor and it's
We need a
seconded.
mover, so we need a mover and a seconder for that.
Oh, for that one, okay. We're sending to that Paul, member Wickens. Seconded by member Harrington. Any,
Go ahead.
any more discussion on that? No? All in favor? All opposed?
And
Okay,
then
carry on.
subsequently, we would need to vote on the main motion as amended.
Okay,
And I can read that if.
yeah, the main motion as amended is,
And that's already been moved and seconded, so member Loughead and member McCrindle. The main motion as amended reads that the Road Safety Community Partnership Committee received McNalty correspondence for information, and that the Road Safety Community Partnership Committee recommend that council direct staff to review the intersection of Fairway Heights and Margaret Elizabeth and report back to council with any recommendations for improvements relating to traffic control and speeds as identified in the McNalty correspondence.
I'll move that. Yeah, that's,
So it's already been moved and seconded. The committee will just need to vote.
okay. All in favor of that? It is carried. Okay. Next on our list is 5.3, the Clarke correspondence. Since this came to you, Joel, go ahead. You want to address this particular issue?
Sure. Make sure I've got the right one below here. Right, so, I'll read it aloud here. So this is emailed to me back, was it September? So please consider improving the safety of pedestrians crossing the street with 2 intersections of traffic lights. Please consider adopting an advanced pedestrian green. These extra seconds of a person or family walking into the road before vehicles to be crossed with life saving. And a couple of articles to support that. So, yeah, I mean, just, when these types of emails come to me as a councillor, rather than bringing them directly to council, I think it's, prudent to bring it to this body first so that we can have a discussion, save council some time, discussing the details. I do think that, there's some merit there. I'm not sure if it's feasible here in Wareham. I don't know exactly how that works. That's why we're gonna have to get the conversation. I do know that, generally, cars and pedestrians don't mix, right? This is the idea of vehicles and human bodies are built in a good combination, and we have a green light, both are permitted to go through, right? Except for advanced screen and, the presence of advanced screen. So, trickiness here is that, all of our lights are on a provincial highway as well, so there might be some additional regulation. But I suppose through the chair, I'll ask Director Cornfield if he has anything to say about this particular idea or request.
Director Cornfield.
So the traffic lights in both Flushington and Markdale are controlled by the operator, meaning that it's a connecting link. The municipality is not the MTO, it'd be the municipality and the county. So the county is responsible for the traffic signals. The only one that we would have control over is the one at the new source. Because it is not at an upper tier, it's the lower tier connecting link at Victoria Street, at Delaware Gates. So up until that light is installed, the municipality has no control or authority over the intersections that the squares, late square with the county.
So if this committee were to make a recommendation to council, we'd have to recommend to council that they then recommend to the county to see if we wanted to do something like this. Is that correct?
To you, Chair, yes, it would be up to council to approach the county, yes. Or have staff go through to staff the county, however that would be directed.
Okay, so we have a total of 3 intersections in Wareham.
Controlled, yeah.
And I was reading the study that he's provided a link to. It seems pretty much a no-brainer. This is working. It's according to this study, can reduce the pedestrian vehicle crash rate by 46%, and it's actually being adopted by Toronto's Vision Zero committee. So it does sound like, and if we only have, we're talking about 3 stoplights, it would seem like it wouldn't seem like a big investment. I don't know exactly what's involved in changes. Anybody else want to weigh in on this?
I would like to see that adopted in Washington, especially if it's going back and forth to school as well as Markdale. It just seems like, again, I'm no brainer. Yeah.
Yes, Member Harrison.
Just a question for Joel. Is it talking about an advanced light? And the only light that's advanced is the one down here, the grocery store, right? The rest, there's no advanced lights. Not one there either, okay.
So it's what they want to establish is called a leading pedestrian LPI, which means that you give pedestrians a 5-second start.
Right.
Except I guess when there is an advanced grade.
Right. I drive to Hamilton every weekend and they use it extensively downtown. It's awesome. There's no confusion. Pedestrians get to start walking, and of course, when the light changes, they're halfway across already, so there's no question as to whether you're going to race them around a corner or whatever. I think it's perfect. Great idea.
Anyone else? Member Holiday.
Just thinking though that, they're halfway through the intersection, I agree. However, now you become to somebody that's not paying attention and it's got the sun in their eyes like we had in Markdale.
Mhm.
And they make a left-hand turn, become a sitting duck. Because you would, you're out there, you have no protection. Just in that particular scenario.
Yeah, so you're saying that a pedestrian that has not started crossing has a better chance if somebody's turning left into the.
Yeah. It's certainly an option, to think about. I mean, I'm just saying is that you're halfway across this and somebody who's not really, not paying attention and wheels into a left-hand turn.
Mhm.
You could. But if it's protocol and it's, I think it should be looked at and considered at some point in time as part of if it's part of Vision Zero, then, then people will get used to it.
Remember what?
Thank you, Chair. So, this is another question. I mean, unfortunately, Vision Zero, again, the policy framework is not that clear, and there is clarity on this particular item. I'm not sure of it. So I'd be curious to know, I mean, presumably municipality Great Islands will be installing more traffic lights in the coming decades, right? In years, maybe even. So I'd be curious to know whether or not, this type of light will just be the norm going forward. I would hope it would be, right? Again, and from the direction of research and Vision Zero, I don't know that that's the case. Again, so we don't, this particular item in front of us, it was calling for a recommendation from this body to council. I think that again, we can make that recommendation to council that we have staff come back with a report on this. Because there is some, back and forth between Frontier County and ourselves. Again, a question for Director Cornfield, if he has any sense of the feasibility, is it as simple as reprogramming a traffic light that we already have in place? Does it require new lights, etc.? I don't know if you have any information on that.
Hardware or wiring or
Exactly.
something.
Through Chair Barnett, I would not have a clue whether the computer would have to be upgraded or not. So back this up, it would be solely on the county, whether they want to talk to the municipality about how we feel about a municipal state standpoint, but it would be the county that would make decisions on this. I am not that familiar with the advanced screen unless I've been in downtown Toronto or some of those larger metropolitans where you see them. But basically, it's always line of pedestrians. That's the only way you could have it. Stop pedestrians, then the traffic can move because there's always so many pedestrians. So there is a lot of has been for as long as I've been here, pressure on the time it takes to get through Markdale and Washington. So whenever you make these types of changes, you're also affecting traffic flow. I say that tongue in cheek because there's no more important than the pedestrian safety, but it's another hurdle for moving traffic on a highway, if you will. So that's something the county would have to look at as well. And I would assume, even though it's a connecting link, the MTO still has comment on the connecting link on any type of change in traffic flow.
So, would it be more appropriate than if we lobby the council? Or we recommend to council that they lobby the county to come back with the report. This rather than.
The mayor and deputy mayor is council representatives, and maybe they would be the ones to take that forward.
Rather than put this on municipal staff to come back with a report on these, which they don't even have control over. So, were you making a motion?
I was getting there. I was moving in that direction. But I'm happy to make exactly that motion because I agree. That this is fully upper tier controls. Then we should be hearing from them. as to whether this is feasible. And, yes, be mindful, of course, of traffic flow through town, but then, being more mindful of more vulnerable citizens, right, pedestrians, especially school kids. So, I would have an motion that our deputy mayor, make a request, at county council or to Grey County staff, in regards to advanced screens on our traffic lights.
That would be added, yes. Go ahead, Susan. That would be added to the motion that we have not voted on yet, which is to receive this. Or, go ahead.
Through the chair, thank you. I would just like a little bit of clarity. With there being 3 lights, is the committee simply focusing on the 2 that are Highway 10 and county intersections, or are we wanting to include the recommendation for the light at the Foodland intersection?
So, thank you. And I guess to the chair, even though the 3rd light at Foodland is on Highway 10, that's not controlled by the other 2, that's to direct market.
That's correct, it is a municipality.
Right, so then we would need a municipal staff report for that particular traffic light. I mean, we could wait, I suppose, for some clarity from the county before making a decision on that ourselves, or we could forge forward with all 3. I mean, without wanting to waste our municipal staff's time, I think, these are important decisions that need to be looked at. And so I'd be happy to both petition the county and our own staff for reports on all 3 lights. I think they're all 3 important lights and all 3 should look at.
Okay.
So I don't know if that offers the clarity or requires.
I'll be quiet here.
So you don't work in any dog.
Yes, go ahead.
Through the chair,
Yes, please.
we read it back, okay, so, and at this time, we only have a mover, which would be, member Loughead. The draft motion is that the Road Safety Community Partnership Committee receive the Clarke correspondence for information, and that the Road Safety Community Partnership Committee recommend that council direct staff to prepare a report to be brought back to council on the use of advanced green pedestrian lights at the signalized intersection at Victoria Street and Toronto Street South in Markdale, which would be the Foodland intersection. And that the Road Safety Community Partnership Committee recommend that council advocate to the County of Grey and the Ministry of Transportation for the use of the advanced pedestrian green light at the signalized intersections of Main Street and Toronto Street in Markdale and Sydenham/Collingwood and Toronto Road in Flusherton.
Nice to say instead of saying advanced green, because to me that means.
Yeah.
That we say leading
What
pedestrian
else do you
interval,
know?
LPI, leading
Leading
pedestrian
pedestrian
interval.
I don't think that requires
No,
yes.
I'll second that.
Okay, so I don't know, that has.
Nobody's gonna know what that means.
That's
Well,
it will do.
and
We will, council seconded, any other brief discussion about that?
Right, Grey County, well, you're right.
All in favor of this motion? Okay, all opposed? Right, carried. Next on the agenda is item 5.4, the Gallaugher correspondence. And again, I think this came from Joel, so do you want to take it down, Joel?
Sure. Thank you very much, Chair Margaret. I won't read the length of the email, but the the gist here, is that it's a rural road, really correctly, and they're speeding along it, which is something that we've heard quite a bit, right? There's only a two-way stop. Not only are there no posted speed limits on the road as mentioned, there's only a two-way stop. With center line A being a through road, many of the travelers speed beyond the limit necessary. So again, this is sort of, we get, this is a comment I get all the time, the councillor, I rarely get it as email, when I do get it as email, I forward it to this committee, but again, what the issue is speeding in municipality right now is that's what this correspondence is getting at again. So yeah, for general discussion, that's why I brought it forward.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was gonna say that it's just, this could be anywhere in Greyhound. This is a problem everywhere because we've got gravel roads. We've got these old little settlements where you've got a few bunch of little houses and then in the middle of the farm. And so those people in the settlements are walking the roads, and if it's a gravel road and it's a rural road, the speed limit is defaulted to 80. And if people don't want to slow down, they don't. Anybody else want to weigh in on this? Yes, Member McNalty.
Making a four-way stop would ultimately make everyone slow down. But also, I didn't see why that would be such a bad thing.
Okay.
Sorry, could you repeat that? Sorry.
Oh, sorry, making it a four-way stop in that little hamlet instead of just the two-way.
Oh, yeah, more.
Ultimately will make everyone slow down.
Yes, absolutely. The other alternative is, if I may, through the chair.
Yes.
Is the flashing lights that we've used, let's say at 63 and 10. I find flashing lights very effective, flashing stoplights. I was concerned about side road 35 and 4, they're only on one side, but I see they're now on both sides. So I'm not sure why it took so long, but anyhow. I would ask Director Corfield, do all our stop signs have the advanced ones, advanced stop signs? Are we fully supplied with the stop sign ahead throughout our municipality, or are there certain areas that we don't have that stop sign saying, the one I mean, that it shows that it's a sign that says it stop ahead. Yeah, do we have that fully rolled up in our municipality?
Chair, Barnett, no.
Okay, so it is a possibility in Wareham that we don't have that advanced.
I don't have it in front of me, but it's very close.
Do you know, Director Corfield, what is the criteria for putting a stop sign ahead?
No.
Sign.
I believe it would have something to do with the classification of the road.
Like stuff like that too.
It is a regulatory sign, again, that would have to have, be supported by the install.
Yes, Member Conley.
Supported by bylaws specifically for that location or in general?
Correct, for location.
For location. I would recommend that.
For clarity, all our stop signs are individually.
Right,
outlined.
Right.
So at this particular location, there are no stop signs.
There was one that says,
There's stop signs heading north and south.
yes,
There are no stop signs east and west.
that's right. So it was a recommendation that, that we make it a four-way stop. And the other possibility is that we could check that perhaps the advanced stop sign, we investigate that as a sort of the next step before we go to a four-way. So would that be an effective?
I think the issue here was people going through.
East and west.
Yeah, there was one.
Oh, well, okay, so that's I mean, you could stop, you could do it, you could do the flashing light there, make it a two-way stop. It's a possibility. Because, you know, you've got traffic flow that you can consider, you know, I'm not sure whether that is considered an arterial road, east-west or not. We're talking about.
I don't know.
Center line is, somewhat an arterial road.
Actually, why is it? Like, I'm sorry, the executive. I'll go ahead. But it is a municipal road, like all east-west concession roads, starting from the north concession 4B, concession 3.
Right.
And then center line. It's a municipal road. Like, I feel that all rural municipal roads should have four-way stop signs because of the speeding problems that happen everywhere on all the roads, actually.
Member Jones, do you have something?
Oh, I mean, we've all been to Wareham, right? I think, and feels to me like neither of those roads should have priority in terms of being a through road. I agree with it, and I think it's a simple and relatively inexpensive solution to make it a four-way stop. And I would say that probably should follow for most of these intersections.
Yes.
It just, you know, it would definitely slow people down. And I sympathize with people sometimes, you know, because people drive really fast. If they think they're going through, they boot it sometimes. And big pickup trucks and stuff, they really throw a lot of debris around, you know. Anyway, besides that though, it doesn't feel to me like either, like Central Line, for example, should have priority over Road 41. I don't know if you agree, but. What do you think? Councillor Wickens?
I personally disagree. I think, all the concession roads, except when it comes to some of the paved roads, like the one that runs through Badger's and McIntyre and across through Brewster's Lake, down to the Pretty River Valley. That's all paved way through, so those, that road gets preference except at Highway 4. And there's the stop start thing. You burn twice as much gas. You really do. So if you want to look at global warming, that's another thing, you know. Fuel conservation.
Okay.
I understand, like, I think this email was came upon because they stopped the vehicle and they were accosted by the people in the vehicle, and I don't know, unless you identify the people, you know, give that information to the police, it's really. I think there's a balance somewhere. I realize the small hamlets, like, when you do the same thing at McIntyre then, and Rob Roy, and, you know, you said, there are dozens and dozens of small hamlets that,
But neither of the roads that go through Durham are paved. I agree with you about a paved road going through should probably have priority. But if it's two unpaved roads, would a four-way stop then make sense or not?
not to me.
Not to you.
Not to me.
Member McNalty, do you have something?
My car stops and starts when I want to stop. I think that's the way of the future, so I think it's irrelevant whether it's costing everyone more gas. I think human safety, that's what we're here for, is it not? So, four-way stop.
Anyone else want
I'll second this four-way stop.
so you're gonna make a motion that we have a four-way stop at the corner of.
Investigate the possibility.
Yeah.
Center line and 41.
And stop fixing potholes.
Yeah, that'll-
We're slowing down.
Okay, so
So actually, Chris and I, a lot of heat.
that would be your motion then. to receive the Gallaugher correspondence for information and make a recommendation to council that they investigate before we stop at that intersection. So that's the motion. Anyone want to second that motion?
I said it.
Always, okay. The rally is seconded. Yeah, that. Okay. So any more discussion on that? All those in favor of that motion? All those opposed? Motion is carried.
I had this much down. I support. We can get carried away, I think, with all this,
Mhm.
you know, you look at the amount of crisscross roads that are in the municipality and after that, maybe you're gonna do it for about 10 more, I think.
Well, this one actually goes through a settlement though.
Yeah.
It's a little different, I mean, it'd be different than this, and you know,
We can make the case for Priceville too, I mean, we've got blind intersections at the main street coming out on both sides. And if we're gonna put a stop sign on it before, just because of a concern, and we need a lot of speeding there, I think that's
something you could recommend.
could, be a more enforcement issue than it is a solution of a stop sign.
Okay, well, it's up to council now. Yes,
Sorry, we voted on that motion or not? We did vote on that motion. I missed something during the council report, but I'm not sure, whenever it's appropriate. I'll bring it back up.
Okay, I guess, we'll do the meeting schedule next and then members privilege maybe, but meeting schedule, the Road Safety Community Partnership Committee scheduled the 25th regular meetings on the first Monday of every month. Every other month at 1:30 p.m. The next one being on January 6th, and Monday the 3rd of March, 5th of May, and the 7th of July, and September 2nd. Being on Monday's holidays, and November 3rd. So this would be a motion on the floor. I guess we'd have to have somebody make that motion. Oh, yes.
Through the chair, and if that member could also indicate the dates that they wish to have the in-person meetings.
Right.
So we could have a little bit of discussion beforehand.
Okay, should we make that one? No, we can make that
You
motion.
can, yeah, you can just have a discussion if you'd like, and then we can move the motion up.
Yes,
All right, I was going to make a motion that we have the November meeting in person.
November.
That's very tradition.
The only one we want first.
Yes, member Haley.
We had two.
Sure.
Right. My recommendation would be consider when we had the second one, which usually in the spring, sometime in April, something like that.
Oh, it's May or July.
Was it May?
Yeah.
Oh, May.
Yeah, maybe the May.
Okay, so do you want to make that motion and that the two in-person meetings be on the 5th and November 3rd?
All right, then I will make that motion.
Anybody second that motion? Member Jones. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, it carries. Now members privilege. Go ahead. You had something to add.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, it occurred to me, there was, last budget, we, requested, speed studies through new signage, right? And those signs, have gone up since, right? And, data's being collected. So, you may have seen yourself the 6x6s along some of the roads, that have gone up, throughout the municipality. So those are in place that we're able to put the signage and the data collection hardware around. So we'll be getting the council will be getting data from that signage at some point in the future as that data starts to come in. which is great because it'll help us get a picture of, you know, what type of speeding, you know, what type of volume. And then we'll be able to make, you know, clearer policy rather than the guesswork that we often do with the council and this committee. That's number one. Number two, at our last council meeting, or perhaps the one before, recently anyway, we had a delegation from a representative company, a private company called Traffic Watches, and they both build and administer the materials for automated speed enforcement, i.e. photo radar. Their delegation came to our council with basically a proposal that they would embark on a 3-week speed and volume data collection study free of charge to the municipality. And then they present that data to the municipality, and then we can decide from that data whether or not we want to go forward with ASC. So that came to us again recently, and we voted, I don't know if it was unanimous, but we certainly voted in favor of going forward with that study. So that data will be coming to us as well. That's independent data now, private independent data will also come back to council, and maybe moving forward with the ASC depending on that. So I think it's very important, especially and pertinent in this, you know, question of enforcement in Priceville. Again, you know, my opinion has long been that the best means of enforcement is ASC. So I think this is an important step forward.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else with an item for members' privilege? Member Halliday.
Couple items, nothing too earth shaking, but the council receives from the staff various circulated from other municipalities. And I'm not sure whether or not I missed it, but there was a Good Roads establishment of an Ontario Rural Safety Program. And it was circulated by the town of Blue Mountains. And I didn't see that it was picked up by any of our council. It's there on a, you know, there's 15 or so circulated things, and I thought that perhaps our council should have a look at that because it is from the Good Roads, and they're recommending the concept be developed for the Ontario Road Safety Annual Report. So I just mentioned it to council that they should pull that and have a look at it and be supportive of the concept. Because here we're talking about road safety and it didn't get pulled, and so there was no discussion at council.
Should we as a committee look at that at the next meeting?
I can send it out to Danielle and we can review it, okay?
Yeah.
It's Good Roads is seeking support to address preventable tragedies, and it fits into what we're headed, and they're looking for obviously funding from that province to be able to implement that. So I'll send it to
I have access to it.
you
I
have
have
that.
access to it.
You know where it is, right? And there's a couple of them there that related to that. And that it was circulated to all municipalities in Ontario requesting their support. So Town of the Mountains circulated it, and Wareham received it and didn't act on it.
Thank you.
The other thing is, I'm not sure whether or not people read the Star on this weekend, but there was an article of packed full page, you know, either for councillors that moving past hate and healing. It was all about the accident that happened in Eugenia. And it revealed that the fellow was more or less he was going to plead not guilty, but was convinced to plead guilty, and he was going to more or less serve his time without a license, you know, at home. Right. So also the family that lost their, you know, the father, they are suing the municipality. It says right in that article, they're suing the municipality and the insurance on that driver, and identifies that driver in that article, for $3.5 million, and the municipality is being sued for not having proper lights, et cetera, et cetera. An interesting thing to be able to follow up, for our municipality, to see whether or not, if we have to pay for that kind of thing. It's certainly an early warning situation. So I'm going to ask Danielle if she could find that article and add it to our appendix to this particular meeting. So
Just a comment.
Yeah.
Like, well, you said that there were no proper lights at that intersection.
Well, that's one of the items. that we-
Well,
We don't, it's not.
there are no lights.
There's not.
Streetlights.
Streetlights, but.
I don't know. The thing is, that's what they're saying. That's what municipality is being sued for.
Point of order here, I think this is not litigation going against this municipality, I think this is way out of house.
Okay, fine. It's in the public domain.
But you're having a discussion about it as a committee. Fine.
We'll stop that and ask that it be circulated. That's all.
I don't believe that I have access to circulate it, and I don't. think
I'll give you that
it's
article.
appropriate
You don't think it's
For
appropriate?
the committee, no.
Oh, it's been in the public domain.
We can't do it.
Pardon?
As Danielle's point, I think we can't really act on it based on our. Okay.
I'm only suggesting that council, that this committee should be aware of something that's in the public domain relating to traffic safety in our community. That's, my only point. I know we can't do anything about it, but it's in the public domain.
Okay. Can't go in the appendix, so.
Hmm,
Can't go in the appendix.
that's fine if you,
All right. Thank you. Anyone
that's a
else?
decision you're making. I'm not necessarily agreeing with it.
I am making that decision.
Yeah, I realize that.
Can't go in the appendix. Okay, anyone else? I just wanted to say that, my campaign has been very successful, distributed 6,000 LED armbands across southern Grey County, Jasper, Grey Highlands, Southgate, West Grey. And I have a number of these that I still need to distribute. So if anybody knows of where I can put some more of these, I want to put them up in hospitals, because they have to agree to it. And anywhere else, information centers, all the safety tips for all users of our road. So I have more. Anyone wants or needs some, take some.
You got them in the libraries, right?
Yes, I have them in letters, yes. Anyone else? Anything? Okay, so I guess that's 5.5. You don't get any motion for that. Or 6, actually. Our next meeting will be on the 6th of January, as was passed in the last item. And it will be in a virtual meeting. So all I need now is an adjournment. So anyone want to make a motion to adjourn this meeting? Member Halley, second, Member Wickens, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? Other than that, I'll vote for you.